I'm going to show you exactly what to practice for the next 365 days to go from chord beginner to chord master. You see, if you've tried to learn chords from one of these chord books, you've probably failed because 1, they teach you too many chords, way more than you actually need to know. 2, they don't show you how these chords are actually used in real-world songs. 3, they don't teach you the chords in the best order. 4, they don't tell you how to actually make the chords sound good at the piano. And 5, worst of all, they don't show you how to practice these chords so that you can confidently get them in your fingers. But if you follow the exact path that I've designed for you in this video, you'll go from Kevin the quirky chord kid to Ken the cool chord king. Each week for the next year, you're going to learn a new essential chord, how to make the chord sound good, how it's used on real-world songs, and how to practice it. By the end of this video, you're going to know the 52 most important chords, how to play them in any key, how to use them on any song, and how to make them sound amazing on any chord progression. If you're tired of playing the same chords, you don't know how to practice them, you're overwhelmed by the amount of online material teaching chords, you're lost and confused about chords, or you simply don't have that much time to practice, this lesson is for you. In as little as 5 minutes a day, you can master all 52 chords, but the most important thing is that you stick with it. I encourage you to come back to this video every day because I'm going to be guiding you through each lesson and showing you exactly how to practice each chord. I promise that if you stick to my plan, you will see massive improvements in your chord playing in the next year. So you ready to get started? Let's do it. First, let's go over the overall practice plan. The goal will be to focus on one new chord each week and master it at the piano. Every day of the week, you'll practice this chord in 2 new keys. And by the end of 6 days, you will have practiced the chord in all 12 keys. Now on day 7, you can take a break or you can review the chord that you just learned in all 12 keys. Now you have 3 options for how deeply you want to learn your chords. Level 1 is your basic understanding of the chords. And for this level, I recommend that you play the chords basically the way they're written in the sheet music. Level 2 understanding will be even deeper, and so for this level of understanding, I recommend that you practice the chords in both hands. Finally, level 3 will be your deepest level of understanding these chords, and so for this level, I recommend that you practice the chords in both hands and you play all inversions. Now, I do want to mention that some of these chords are already played with both hands, and so in this case, you're already practicing it this way. Also, some of the chords cannot be easily played in inversions. So be sure to watch this entire lesson video because I'm going to tell you which exercises to play in inversions and which ones you do not need to play in inversions. Lastly, let's go over my recommended practice goals. I recommend 5 to 15 minutes per day of practice to truly master these chords. How do you know when you're ready to move on? Well, I recommend that you set a metronome to 50 to 60 BPM. And if you can play 1 chord per beat, then you're ready to move on to the next exercise. When you finish each lesson, I recommend that you put a little check mark or the date in the box below the exercise. And you will find this in the downloadable lesson sheet music. This is only available for our members at Piano with Jonny, but if you're not a member, you can of course fill out a practice log using a spreadsheet or just using a simple piece of paper. Lastly, you can go at a faster pace through this 1-year plan. For example, if you hit the goal tempo early, you can move on to the next exercise. And many of our students at Piano with Jonny can complete a 1-year lesson plan in 6 months or maybe even 3 months if they're moving at a faster pace. So feel free to go at your own pace. You can go faster than the 1-year plan. You can also go slower, and you could do this in 16 months, 18 months. So go at your own pace. But before we dive into week number 1, if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. Welcome to week number 1, and this week you're going to learn major chords. These are arguably the most important chords because they are used in tons of tunes like Can You Feel the Love Tonight? The way that you play a major chord is that you start on a note like C, and you go up 4 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, and you have what's called a C major. Now to practice this at a basic level, you simply play the chord like this. If you want to practice at level 2, you're going to play it in both hands like this. And if you want to practice it at level 3, you're going to play all of the inversions. So we have what's called root position, then you put the C on the top, first inversion, and then you put the E on the top, second inversion, and then you can bring it down to your inversions. So on day number 1 of week number 1, you're going to play C major and D flat major. Day 2, you're going to play D major and E flat major. Day 3, you're going to play E major and F major. Day 4, you're going to play F sharp major and G major. Day 5, you're going to play A flat major and A major. And day 6, you're going to play B flat major and B major. Now for each of these lessons, I'm not going to play through each day's exercises at level 2 or level 3 because this video will turn into hours long. But if you wanted to practice at level 2, on day 2, you would play D major and you would do both hands, all of the inversions. Do you see it? And then you would do E flat, both hands, all of the inversions, okay? So there's a bit of putting this together on your own. If you want to practice at level 3, you do need to figure out the inversions for each of these chords. But if you cannot figure out your chord inversions, that's okay. You can learn them in our level 1 foundations learning track over at pianowithjonny.com. I'll put a link to that below. I also want to mention that as you practice your chords, you can practice arpeggiating them. And here's what this means. When I taught you these chords, you played all the notes together. These are called block chords, but you can play them broken or arpeggiated, okay? And this can be very valuable. Let's say you want to play your chords like this. Right? It's important to practice arpeggiation. So you can add to these exercises breaking up the chord in each inversion, okay? Again, this is optional if you want that level 3 understanding and you want to practice arpeggiating. And once again, I'm not going to arpeggiate every single chord for every single day for this entire year because this video will turn very long, but you should be able to figure out how to break up the notes of each chord. All right, welcome to week number 2. You've got 1 week down, 51 to go. For week number 2, you're going to look at minor chords. And minor chords are very sad sounding chords. They're used on tunes like Mad World. So the way to play a minor chord is that you start on a note like C, you go up 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3, and then you go up 4 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have what's called a C minor chord. Now for level 1 practice, you'll play the chord like this. For level 2, you'll do it in both hands. And then for level 3, you'll play the inversions. Once again, you can also arpeggiate these chords. And you can also bring it down. So on day number 1, you're going to practice C minor and C sharp minor. On day 2, you're going to practice D minor and E flat minor. On day number 3, you're going to practice E minor and F minor. On day 4, you'll practice F sharp minor and G minor. Day number 5, you'll practice G sharp minor and A minor. And day number 6, you'll practice B flat minor and B minor. Welcome to week number 3, and in this week you're going to learn diminished chords. Diminished chords are very unsettling chords. If you watch some of the old black and white films, it's like a train scene. The train's coming and you got to get the gal off the tracks. That is oftentimes the sound that you'll hear are these diminished chords, okay? They're also used on tunes like Maple Leaf Rag. okay? The beginning of the tune opens with a diminished chord, okay? So we're gonna learn these very simple diminished triads. So how do you play a diminished triad? Well, you start on a C, you go up 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3, and then you go up 3 more half steps, 1, 2, 3, and you have what's called a C diminished, okay? Now, for level 1 practice, just play it in your right hand. For level 2, you can play it in both hands. And for level 3, you're gonna play inversions. So for inversions, you bring it up like this, okay? Makes sense? Very simple to play. So how do you practice this? Well, on day 1, I recommend that you practice C diminished and C sharp diminished. On day 2, I recommend that you practice D diminished and then D sharp diminished. Day 3 will be E diminished and F diminished. Day 4 will be F sharp diminished and G diminished. Day 5 will be G sharp diminished to A diminished. And finally, day 6 will be B flat diminished to B diminished, okay? And once again, as you practice these sets of chords each day, you can choose your level of understanding. So for example, on day 3, you have E diminished and F diminished. You could play it like that, that's great. You could do both hands, right? And then like that. And you can do the inversions. This is the deep understanding. You gotta play inversions of these chords. That's E diminished, right? You can also break it up. And then you do the same thing for F. You block it. You with me? You can bring it down. And then you break it up. All right, welcome to week number 4, and this week you're going to learn augmented chords. And augmented chords are really cool chords that have this sound to them, okay? They're oftentimes used in the whole tone scale. If you want to get a dreamy sound, if you heard this in movies or films, this scale comes from 2 augmented chords. It's also used on lots of tunes, like You Are So Beautiful. You hear that? That is the sound of your augmented chord. So how do you play an augmented chord? Well, you start on your C, you go up 4 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go up 4 more half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have what is called a C augmented chord, okay? Now, once again, you have 3 levels to practice this. You can play it 1 hand, you can play it 2 hands, or you can play the inversions up the piano and down the piano. And once again, you can do them blocked, you can do them broken. Either one is fine. I also want to mention fingering. When you're seeing me play these chords, you may notice that I'm changing my fingering. And that's actually something that I encourage you to do, because there are various ways to finger chords, and you want to have versatility to be able to finger them in multiple ways. So for example, on this diminished chord, you could play it like this, you could play it like that, you could play it like that, okay? And so what I want you to do as you're practicing these is to change up your fingering so that you have versatility. This is very important if you want to be a piano player, is to not get locked into fingering chords this one way. You want to have multiple options. So on day number 1, I recommend that you practice C augmented and D flat augmented. On day number 2, I recommend that you practice D augmented and E flat augmented. Day 3, I recommend that you practice E augmented and F augmented. Day 4, I recommend that you practice F sharp augmented and G augmented. Day 5, I recommend that you practice A flat augmented and A augmented. And finally, on day 6, I recommend that you practice B flat augmented and B augmented. And once again, you can practice this at different levels. For example, on day 5, you have A flat augmented and A augmented. Once again, you could do single hands, you could do both hands, or you could do inversions. So you would do A flat, right? You could also arpeggiate it. And then you have A, same thing. You could do it blocked, like this, you seeing it? Or you can arpeggiate it. Now, before we move on to next week, I do want to mention that one of the best ways to practice major and minor chords is to practice them from within a key. Meaning, instead of going up in these half steps, it's really useful to take a key, like the key of C major, and practice all of the chords that come from that key. And you'll discover that every key has major chords, minor chords, and diminished chords. And this can be extremely useful because when you look at most songs, usually they use major and minor chords, but these chords come from a key. And so if you want to learn how to play major and minor chords from within a key, I recommend that you check out our Beginner Foundations learning track at pianowithjonny.com. In this learning track, I walk you through each key, the key of C major, F major, G major, and I teach you all of the major and minor chords that come from each key, and this will equip you to playing real-world songs with major and minor chords. We talk about diminished chords as well. We talk about chord progressions. I show you how to play a tune in that key, how to play inversions of the chords, and then how to basically make a lead sheet your own. And then I show you how to play in different styles like jazz, blues, pop, rock, Latin. So much fun, and we really go deep on each key so that you truly understand these chords. So I'll put a link to that below. All right, welcome to week number 5, and this week you're gonna learn about sus2 chords. And sus2 chords are really cool sounding chords. Have this sound to them, and they're used on lots of tunes. For example, on the tune Faithfully by Jonny, it has this little riff. Okay, and basically what they're doing is they're playing a C major chord to a C sus2. So it has an amazing sound. So how do you play these chords? Well, you start on C, you go up 2 steps, and then you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps up to your G. And this is called a C sus2, okay? Now, you can play it with your right hand, you can play it with both hands, and you can do your inversions. Inversions get a little tricky because you get these really spread out notes like this, okay? So you've got lots of options here. Once again, you can arpeggiate the notes as well. It gets a little tricky, you gotta kind of think ahead, but a lot of fun to play. Now on day 1, you're going to practice C sus2 and D flat sus2. Okay. Day 2, you're going to practice D sus2 and E flat sus2. Day 3, you'll practice E sus2 and F sus2. Day 4, you'll practice F sharp sus2 and G sus2. Day 5, you'll practice A flat sus2 and A sus2, and finally on day 6 you'll practice B flat sus2 and B sus2. All right, welcome to week number 6, and this week you're going to learn all about sus4 chords. And sus4 chords are very cool chords if you're playing a chord progression in C and you go to that 5 chord G. It's a really cool way of playing your G chord to kind of make it sound unresolved. And it's used on lots of tunes. For example, the tune Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Queen opens with these sus4 chords. You hear that? Those are sus chords. So how do you play a sus chord? Well, you start on C, you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps, and then you go up 1, 2 half steps, and you have what's called a C sus4. Once again, you can play it with your right hand, both hands. You can also arpeggiate it up the piano like this, okay? Lots of great options here. Now on day 1, I recommend that you practice C sus4 and D flat sus4. Day 2, I recommend that you practice D sus4 and E flat sus4. Day 3 will be E sus4 and F sus4. Day 4 will be F sharp sus4 and G sus4. Next day will be A flat sus4 and A sus4. And finally, day 6 will be B flat sus4 and B sus4. All right, welcome to week number 7. This week you're going to learn about major 6 chords. And major 6 chords are really cool chords that allow you to color a C major like this. And if you ever wanted to play a run on C, you can add an A to this chord to turn it into a C6 chord. It has a very happy, colorful sound, and it's used on lots of tunes. For example, the tune The Way You Look Tonight. Okay, that first chord is a 6 chord. It's a C6 chord, so it has a very beautiful sound. So how do you play a major 6 chord? Well, you start on the E. You're going to play a C major triad that you already learned, except you're going to add the A, which is a whole step above that top note. This is a C6 chord, okay? Now, you can practice it in one hand, you can do 2 hands, or you can do inversions, okay? And for this one, you're going to have 4 ways to play it. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? So you have slightly more inversions here when you're practicing it. Now on day 1, you're going to practice C6 and D flat 6. Day 2 will be D6 and E flat 6. Day 3 will be E6 and F6. Day 4 will be F sharp 6 and G6. Day 5 will be A flat 6 and A6. And day 6 will be B flat 6 and B6. Welcome to week number 8, and this week you're going to learn about minor 6 chords. And minor 6 chords are beautiful chords that you can use to color an ordinary minor chord like this and make it sound like this. Okay, is a beautiful sounding chord. It's used in lots of styles. And one tune that uses this chord out the gates is Summertime. Super beautiful. So how do you play a minor 6 chord? Well, you're going to play a C minor, except you're going to add the 6, the A, to this chord. And it's very simple. You just add the note a whole step above the top note of your minor chord, okay? Once again, you can do single hands, you can do both hands, and you can do inversions, okay? The inversions get a little tricky because you have more inversions than you did on your minor chord. All right, so for day 1, you're gonna practice C minor 6 and D flat minor 6. Get a little interesting here. Then on day 2, you're gonna have D minor 6 and E flat minor 6. Day 3, you'll have E minor 6 and F minor 6. Day 4, you'll have F sharp minor 6 and G minor 6. Day 5, you'll have A flat minor 6 and A minor 6. And finally, on day 6, you'll have B flat minor 6 and B minor 6. Welcome to week number 9, where you're going to learn all about major 7 chords. And major 7 chords are beautiful chords where you can take a simple chord like C major and you could play it like this. Okay, it's a beautiful way to color your chord, and it's used on lots of tunes. For example, the Norah Jones tune Don't Know Why starts on a B flat major 7 chord. So it has a very beautiful sound. So how do you play a major 7th chord? Well, you start on the C, you play a C major chord, except you're gonna add a note on top of that, the B. Okay, and the easiest way to think of this is that that top note is just a half step below the root. In this case, the root is C. So you add the B to it, and you have what's called a C major 7 chord. Okay, now you could do level 1, you can do level 2, or you can do level 3 with these inversions. Look at all these beautiful inversions, okay? So, you have some options. Once again, you can arpeggiate it. You don't have to do this. It really depends on how deeply you want to go. So for day number 1, I recommend that you practice C major 7 and D flat major 7. Day 2 will be D major 7 and E flat major 7. Day 3 will be E major 7 and F major 7. Day 4 will be G flat major 7 and G major 7. Day 5 will be A flat major 7 and A major 7. And finally on day 6 will be B flat major 7 and B major 7. Welcome to week number 10, and this week you're going to learn minor 7th chords. And minor 7th chords are a really beautiful way of coloring a minor chord. You can take an ordinary minor chord like this and make it sound like this. Okay. It's used on lots of tunes. For example, the Carole King tune, I Feel the Earth. The very first chord in the tune is a minor 7th chord. So, how do you play a minor 7 chord? Well, you start on C, you play a C minor triad, which you already learned, and then you're going to add the 7th to this. The 7th is a whole step down from the root. So you take the C, you go down a whole step to B flat, and you have what's called a minor 7 chord. Okay? So here's level 1, here's level 2, and level 3 is your inversions. You see them? Once again, you can practice these on your own. You can break it up. I'm not going to do every single one, but I'm showing you some ideas for how deep you can go. Okay, so day 1, you're going to do C minor 7 and D flat minor 7. Day 2 will be D minor 7 and E flat minor 7. Day 3 will be E minor 7 and F minor 7. Day 4 will be F sharp minor 7 and G minor 7. Day 5 will be A flat minor 7 and A minor 7. And finally, on day 6, you'll have B flat minor 7 and B minor 7. All right, welcome to week 11. This week, you're going to learn dominant 7th chords, arguably the most important 7th chord if you want to play jazz, blues, and other styles. It is used a lot in the blues. So if I start playing the blues, guess what I'm playing? A dominant 7th chord. It's also used on classic tunes like At Last. Okay, that first chord is a dominant 7 chord. So how do you play a dominant 7 chord? Well, we're going to start on C. We're going to play a C major triad, and then we're going to add the note a whole step below the root. So that's going to be a B flat. Okay, so this is a C dominant 7th chord. It's also called simply a C7. So if you see a C7 or a C dominant 7, it means the same thing. Okay, C dominant 7. So you can do level 1, level 2, or level 3 are your inversions. All right? Now, on day 1, I recommend that you practice C7 and D flat 7. Day 2 will be D7 and E flat 7. Day 3 will be E7 and F7. Day 4 will be G flat 7 and G7. Day 5 will be A flat 7 and A7. And day 6 will be B flat 7 and B7. All right, welcome to week number 12, and this week you're going to learn about diminished 7th chords. And you actually already learned about diminished chords, but diminished 7th chords have an even cooler sound. These chords are very hip. They're used in lots of tunes like White Christmas. You hear that chord? I'm dreaming. That's a diminished chord, okay? It's also used on kind of old-time jazz tunes. That second chord, that's a diminished 7th chord, okay? So how do you play a diminished 7th chord? Well, we play a diminished chord, which you learned earlier, except we're going to add one more minor 3rd interval on the top. So from this F sharp, we go 1, 2, 3 to the A, and you have what's called a diminished 7th chord. Now you might be wondering, Johnny, why is this a 7th chord? Because this A is 6 notes above the root. Well, technically it is a double flat 7th. It's as if you took this B and made a double flat, okay? But the way I think about it is a simple diminished triad, and we add the 6th interval from the root, okay? So we have level 1, we have level 2, and we have level 3 with our inversions. So for practice, day 1 will be C diminished 7, C sharp diminished 7, okay? Day 2 will be D diminished 7, E flat diminished 7. Day 3 will be E diminished and F diminished 7. Day 4 will be F sharp diminished 7 and G diminished 7. Day 5 will be G sharp diminished 7 and A diminished 7. And finally, day 6 will be B flat diminished 7 and B diminished 7. Welcome to week number 13, where you're going to learn about half diminished 7th chords. And these chords are very beautiful, dark sounding chords. For example, if you had a minor tune in C, it's very common to go to this chord on a 2 chord, like a D. For example, on the tune Beautiful Love, that first chord is a half diminished chord, okay? So how do you play a half diminished chord? Well, you play a diminished chord, you already learned this, except instead of playing the A, which comes from the C diminished 7th, we actually raise that top note a half step. So this is what's called a C half diminished 7. It's also called a C minor 7 with a flat 5. Okay, so you have 2 ways of describing this chord. Usually in classical music, they call it a C half diminished 7, and in jazz, we call it a C minor 7 flat 5. But it's a very important chord to learn. You can do level 1, you can do level 2, and level 3 are your inversions, okay? Lots of options here, okay? Now, in terms of practicing it, day 1, I recommend that you play C half diminished 7, C sharp, half diminished 7, or D flat, okay? Day 2 will be D, half diminished 7, and E flat, half diminished 7. Day 3 will be E, half diminished 7, and F, half diminished 7. Day 4 will be F sharp, half diminished 7, and G, half diminished 7. Day 5 will be G sharp, half diminished 7, and A, half diminished 7. And finally, on day 6, it will be B flat half diminished 7 and B half diminished 7. All right, welcome to week 14, and this week you're going to learn the minor major 7 chord. You might be thinking, Johnny, minor major, what are you talking about? I know minor and I know major, but that's not this chord. The minor major 7th chord is a really cool 7th chord, also known as the spy chord, because it has this sound. It has a very mysterious sound to it, and it's also used in lots of tunes like My Funny Valentine. That second chord, My Funny Valentine, that is your minor major 7 chord, okay? So how do you play this chord? Well, we play a C minor in our right hand, except we're going to add the major 7 to this chord. So we're actually going to add the B natural to this chord, okay? It's a less common chord. You're not going to see this one as much, but it is prevalent enough that it is worth learning, okay? So it's a minor triad with a major 7th. That's why we call it a minor major 7 chord, okay? So you have level 1, you've got level 2, and of course you can do the inversions. The inversions will sound a little weird, but you can practice it this way. Okay, for day 1, you're going to practice C minor major 7 and C sharp minor major 7, okay? Day 2 will be D minor major 7 and E flat minor major 7. Day 3 will be E minor major 7 and F minor major 7. Day 4 will be F sharp minor major 7 and G minor major 7. Day 5 will be G sharp minor major 7 and A minor major 7. And day 6 will be B flat minor major 7 and B minor major 7. Now, if you want to go deeper on your 7th chords, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, and you really want to understand them in more detail, I recommend that you check out our level 4 foundations learning track. In this learning track, we go deep on each one of these chords. So you're going to do a study on major 7, dominant 7, minor 7th chords, but you're not just going to learn the chords, you're going to learn essential exercises. I'm going to walk you through each exercise. We're going to practice it from a variety of angles and contexts so that you really understand it deeply. We're going to work through chord progressions that use these chords. We're going to work through how to play inversions, and then you're going to learn how to play these chords on lead sheets. These are tunes that you're going to see in a jazz book or in a fake book, so you really understand this at a deep level. And And once again, we go through every single chord, diminished and half diminished seventh chords, and then this is our application course, playing lead sheets with these chords. And by the way, in this lead sheet course, we go through the top 8 chord progressions that you will find across almost all tunes, so this will prepare you for the real world. I'll put a link to this learning track below. All right, welcome to week number 15, and this week you're going to learn major 9 chords. These are beautiful chords that can be used to color ordinary major chords. For example, let's say you have a C major and you want to really color it, you could play it like this. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? And this chord is used on lots of tunes, like Girl from Ipanema. That first chord is an F major 9 chord. So they're absolutely beautiful. So how do you play a major 9 chord? Well, basically, you're going to start on the C, and you're going to play a C major 7 like you learned earlier, except we're going to add one more note to this chord, the D, okay? And this is the 9th of the chord. And you might be wondering, Johnny, I don't understand, why are we adding this note? Well, if you recall earlier, when you learned major chords like C major, we skip a note from the C major scale. We skip the D and play the E, and then we skip the F and play the G, and this forms a major chord. It's called tertian harmony or tertiary harmony. It's how we build chords. They're built in third intervals, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, if you continue this and you play another third, you end up with a major 7 chord. But if you do it one more time and skip the C and play the D, you end up with a major 9 chord. And that's because this is a 9th interval, okay? So we call this a C major 9 chord, okay? And one more thing I want to say about 9th chords is when you play something like a C major 9, it includes all of those notes where you're building up to the 9th. So if you say C major 9, it usually includes a C, E, G, and a B, and the D. Now you can omit, you can remove notes. That's not uncommon, but generally if you play a 9th chord, it implies the presence of these lower notes. Okay, so that is a C major 9 chord. You could play it like this, right? You could play it like that with just the single note in the right hand. You can also play it like this. Okay, so this is where you can start to do lots of different fingering options, and I encourage you to try some different ones. The one that I recommend is this. You're going to put the C on the bottom, and you're going to put the chord there. But once again, you could play it like this, you could play it like this, and you could play it like that, okay? Now with this chord, you're already playing it with 2 hands. You kind of need 2 hands to play it anyway, but you could play inversions. You could take the top part of the chord and play it like this, and then like this, and then like this. Okay, so if you want to practice at a deeper level, you keep that C on the bottom, and you play all of your inversions on the top, all right? So how do you practice this? Day number 1, you're going to do C major 9 and D flat major 9. You see it? Day 2 will be D major 9 and E flat major 9. Day 3 will be E major 9 and F major 9. Day 4 will be G flat major 9 and G major 9. Day 5 will be A flat major 9 and A major 9. And finally on day 6 will be B flat major 9 and B major 9, okay? Now I want to show you a quick little trick to remembering this chord. You may have already noticed this, but on my C major 9, if you just play the top half of the chord, you might recognize this. This is an E minor 7, okay? And so this can be a really easy way to remembering your major 9 chord if you think I'm going to play a minor 7th chord starting on the 3rd of the chord. So for example, if I wanted to figure out F major 9, I can start on the 3rd of the chord and play an A minor 7. Just a little trick there that can help you out. All right, welcome to week number 16, and this week you're going to learn about dominant 9 chords. And dominant 9 chords are very hip chords. It's a really cool way to color your blues chords. So if you're playing a blues, okay, you can use 9th chords. And they're also used on pop tunes. For example, the Michael Bublé tune, Everything. This chord here is a dominant 9 chord and has an amazing sound to it. So how do you play a dominant 9 chord? Well, you're going to play a C dominant 7th chord. I taught you this earlier, except you're going to add a D to it. And remember, the D is a 9th interval above the C. It comes from the C major scale. You could also think of it as the 2nd note or the 2 of the major scale. So once again, C7, you're going to add the 9 there, okay? Now, in terms of the fingering, you've got lots of options. You could do that, you could do that, you could do that. For this lesson, I recommend that you play it like this, left hand here. And once again, you can do inversions if you want to understand it at a deeper level, okay? So day 1, I recommend that you play C9 and D flat 9. Day 2 will be D9 and E flat 9. Day 3 will be E9 and F9. Day 4 will be G flat 9 and G9. Day 5 will be A flat 9 and A9. And day 6 will be B flat 9 and B9. All right, welcome to week 17. And this week you're going to learn all about minor 9th chords. And minor 9 chords are beautiful chords that you can use to color an ordinary minor chord like a C minor, and you can make it sound like this. Okay, it's used in lots of tunes. One tune that comes to mind is Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. Okay. If you listen to the band, that first chord is a minor 9 chord, okay? It's very beautiful, very hip. So how do you play a minor 9? Well, we're going to start on C. We're going to play a C minor 7 that you learned earlier, except we're going to add the 9th, once again, is the D. Okay, it's the same note that you've been learning. This is a minor 9 chord. It includes the 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Okay, once again, you can use different fingering options. I recommend this one, and you can play inversions with the root in the left hand. Okay, so for day 1, C minor 9 and C sharp minor 9. Day 2 is D minor 9 and E flat minor 9. Day 3 is E minor 9 and F minor 9. Day 4 is F sharp minor 9 and G minor 9. Day 5 is G sharp minor 9 and A minor 9. And day 6 is B flat minor 9 and B minor 9. All right, welcome to week number 18, where you're going to learn about minor 11 chords. And minor 11 chords, once again, are a beautiful way of coloring minor chords like C minor. You can turn it from this into this, okay? Beautiful way of playing a minor chord. And you can do this on lots of tunes. For example, the tune Hark the Herald Angels Sing. On that second chord, this is called a D minor 11, so it's a very useful chord. So how do you play this chord? Well, basically, you're going to play a C minor 9, which I taught you earlier, except we're going to add the 11th to this chord, which is the F. And once again, we are simply stacking thirds from, in this case, the major scale. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Of course, the third is flat and the 7th is flat, but the 11 comes from the major scale. You could also think of it as the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So this is a C minor 11. It includes the 1, 3, 5, 7, and the 9, okay? In terms of how to play it, you could play it like this. In the sheet music, we have it notated like this, okay? And once again, you could play some different inversions. It gets a little tricky, right? Because usually pianists won't do like this. They try to cluster the notes together. So I do not recommend that you play inversions of these chords unless you really want to. You could try to get the 11 in like this and do some clusters. See what I'm doing? But that gets a little overkill to try to get all these notes in the chord. So I recommend that you just play it like this, okay? So on day number 1, you're gonna play C minor 11 and C sharp minor 11. Day 2 will be D minor 11 and E flat minor 11. Day 3 will be E minor 11 and F minor 11. Day 4 will be F sharp minor 11 and G minor 11. Day 5 will be G sharp minor 11 and A minor 11. And then finally on day 6, we'll have B flat minor 11 and B minor 11. All right, welcome to week 19. This week you're going to learn about major 13 chords, and major 13 chords are a beautiful way of playing major chords. So instead of playing C major like this, you could play it like this. right? Very beautiful, very colorful. And there's lots of tunes that you could do this on. For example, you could do this on the tune That's All. That first chord, da, 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 this is a major 13 chord, very colorful chord. So how do you play a major 13 chord? Well, you're gonna play your major 7th chord that I taught you earlier. You're gonna add the 9th to this chord, and you're gonna add the 13th to this chord. This is actually a 13th interval above the root, and we're skipping the 11th because it doesn't sound good in the chord. One way I like to think of the 13th is the 6, okay? But this is indeed a C major 13 chord. It includes the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and the 13, okay? So how do you practice this? Well, on day 1, I recommend that you do C major 13 and D flat major 13, okay? Day 2 will be D major 13 and E flat major 13. Day 3 will be E major 13 and F major 13. Day 4 will be G flat major 13 and G major 13. Day 5 will be A flat major 13 and A major 13. And day 6 will be B flat major 13 and B major 13, okay? Now, you can try playing inversions on these. For example, on the C, right? If you want to grab as many of these notes as you can, it gets tricky because, right, you have all of these notes. And so it can be really tricky to grab all of these inversions. If you want to try it, they turn into pretty big clusters, like this. So I don't necessarily recommend that you practice it because, again, it's a lot of notes. I think it's more important to understand the basic notes so that when you see the chord, you know which notes you can add to your playing. All right, welcome to week 20, where you're going to learn about minor 13 chords. Minor 13 chords are a very hip way of coloring ordinary minor chords like this to make it sound like this. Okay, it's used in a lot of funk music, and it just has this very bluesy, cool sound to it. So how do you play a minor 13 chord? Well, you're going to play that C minor 7, you're going to put the 9 in, and you're going to add the 13, the A, which I just taught you, okay? Once again, you're already playing it with 2 hands. You could try to grab different inversions of these chords, but it does become a lot, right, to try to get all the notes in. So I just recommend that you play it like this, and in terms of practicing it, I recommend that you go C minor 13 to D flat minor 13, that's day 1. Day 2 is D minor 13 to E flat minor 13. Day 3 is E minor 13 to F minor 13. Day 4 is F sharp minor 13 to G minor 13. Day 5 is A flat minor 13 to A minor 13. And day 6 is going to be B flat minor 13 to B minor 13. All right, welcome to week number 21, and this week you're going to learn dominant 13 chords, and dominant 13 chords are very hip ways of playing a dominant 7th chord. So for example, instead of playing a C7 like this, I could play it like this. Okay, it's a much more colorful way of playing a 7th chord. It's used a lot in the blues. So how do you play a dominant 13 chord? Well, you're going to play a C7 that I already taught you. You're going to put the 9 in there, and you're going to put the 13 in there, okay? So this should look pretty familiar to you, and that is a D13 chord. It's a dominant 13 chord, okay? In terms of practicing it, day 1 will be C13, D flat 13. Day 2 will be D13 and E flat 13. Day 3 will be E13 and F13. Day 4 will be F sharp 13 and G 13. Day 5 will be A flat 13 and A 13. And day 6 will be B flat 13 and B 13. All right, welcome to week number 22. This week you're going to learn about 6/9 chords. And 6/9 chords are a beautiful way of coloring major chords. And you can take a C major like this and make it sound like this. Okay, it's a very happy sound. It's used on lots of tunes. For example, Silent Night. That that first chord is a C6-9 chord. Very beautiful way of playing major chords. So how do you play this chord? Well, it's very simple. You're going to play a C major in the left hand, you're going to add a 6 to it, the A, and then you're going to put a 9th on the top, the D. Okay, and this makes it a C6-9 chord. Okay, really beautiful. Now, in terms of practicing this, you're going to have it in both hands. You could put the top of the chord here, and you could practice inversions of this. This actually would work with inversions. Usually for inversions, I remove the root from the chord, so you could practice it like this if you want to get comfortable and confident with this chord. Okay, so in terms of practicing it, day 1, I recommend C6-9 like this and D flat 6-9 like this. Day 2 will be D6-9 and E flat 6-9. Day 3 will be E6-9 and F6-9. Day 4 will be F sharp 6-9 and G6-9. Day 5 will be A flat 6-9 and A6-9. B flat 6-9, this is day 6, and B6-9. All right, welcome to week number 23, and this week you're going to learn about minor 6-9 chords. Once again, these are beautiful chords and a way to color ordinary minor chords. For example, you could take a C minor like this, and you could play it like this. Really beautiful. It's used on lots of tunes. For example, Lullaby of Birdland. That first chord is a minor 6-9 chord, okay? So how do you play this chord? Well, it's a minor 6 chord, so you have a C minor with a 6, and you put the 9 on the top, okay? Very important chord. Once again, you could put those top notes in your right hand, and you could play it like this if you want to practice some inversions of this chord. It does get a little bit tricky, but if you want to master this, you can play it at this level, okay? So how do you practice this? Well, day 1, that'll be C minor 6-9 and D flat minor 6-9. Okay. Day 2 will be D minor 6-9 and E flat minor 6-9. Day 3 will be E minor 6-9 and F minor 6-9. Day 4 will be F sharp minor 6-9 and G minor 6-9. Day 5 will be A flat minor 6-9 and A minor 6-9. And day 6 will be B flat minor 6-9 and B minor 6-9. Now, one thing that I want to mention, when you're playing the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th of chord, these are called chord extensions. And they're basically notes that you can add to the chord to make them sound more beautiful and interesting. And if you want to go deeper on these chords, you really want to understand them and get them in your playing, I recommend that you check out our level 5 Foundations learning track. In this learning track, we go into a lot of detail on these chords right down here in our Extensions and Alterations learning track. And the course that I recommend is our Piano Chord Extensions course. In this course, we go through exercises to master your chord extensions. And then if you go back, you're going to learn how to apply your chord extensions to lead sheets with our application course. Really important if you want to go deep on this, so I'll put a link to that learning track below. All right, welcome to week number 24, and this week you're going to start learning about altered dominant chords. And altered dominant chords are basically when you're playing a chord like G7 and you want to make it sound extra cool, like that. You're going to add these altered notes or alterations to the chord. Okay, so this week you're going to learn your first alteration, which is called the flat 9. And these notes are typically added whenever you're on a 5 chord. So if I'm in the key of C and I go to a G chord, right, and I want to color it, right, these are ways to color this chord. Likewise, if I'm in the key of C and I go to a 6 chord, like an A7, and I want to color this chord, right, you can add these alter notes to basically any dominant chord. So how do you play a dominant flat 9 chord? Well, you play a C7 that I taught you earlier. You take the D, you flat it, that is the flat 9. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, now you can play the top 4 notes with your right hand, and now you can practice your inversions if you would like. But once again, that is up to you how deep you want to go. Okay, so day 1 will be C7 flat 9 and D flat 7 flat 9. Day 2 will be D7 flat 9 and E7 flat 9. Day 3 will be E7 flat 9 and F7 flat 9. Day 4 will be F sharp 7 flat 9 and G7 flat 9. Day 5 will be A flat 7 flat 9 and A7 flat 9. And finally, day 6 will be B flat 7 flat 9 and B7 flat 9. All right, welcome to week number 25, and this week you're going to learn about dominant sharp 9 chords. And these are really cool chords. Once again, if you want to color a dominant chord like a G7, you could play it like this. This is the sound of the dominant sharp 9. Very crunchy, very cool. And you can resolve to a C. You can play on multiple chords as well. You could go like that, okay? Super crunchy. So the way that you play a dominant sharp 9 is you play a dominant 7th chord that you already learned, and then we're going to add the D sharp, which is the sharp 9, okay? And the easy way to figure this out is you just think of the root note and you go up 1, 2, 3 half steps, okay? So that is a C7 sharp 9. Now in terms of playing this in both hands, you could play it like this, and then you could practice your various inversions, but usually we don't play chords like this. So I do not recommend that you play the inversions of this chord. Once again, we're just understanding the basic chord here. So on day 1, you're going to play C7 sharp 9 and D flat 7 sharp 9. Day 2 will be D7 sharp 9 and E flat 7 sharp 9. Day 3 will be E7 sharp 9 and F7 sharp 9. Day 4 will be F sharp 7 sharp 9 and G7 sharp 9. Day 5 will be A flat 7 sharp 9 and A7 sharp 9. And finally, on day 6, we'll have B flat 7 sharp 9 and B7 sharp 9. All right, welcome to week number 26. This week you're going to learn about dominant sharp 11 chords. These are beautiful chords, once again, that you could use to color a dominant chord. Instead of playing a G7 like this, you could play it like this. Right? This is a really interesting note that's oftentimes added to dominant chords. It's especially used on the 2 chord. Like if I'm in the key of C and I go to a D7 chord, you'll hear it. And there's a really beautiful jazz tune called Desafinato. It goes like this. You hear the 2 chord, the G, that is the sound of the dominant sharp 11 chord. So for a dominant sharp 11 chord, what you're going to do is you're going to play a dominant 7th chord in your left hand, and you're going to add the sharp 11, which is the F sharp, in the right hand. You can think of it as an 11th, remember that F, but it's sharped, okay? Some people will call this a flat 5 because it's the G flat, but I like to call it the sharp 11 because technically it is a note being usually added to the chord, and we tend to think of these as modifications of our chord extension. So C7 sharp 11. So how do you practice this? Well, day 1, C7 sharp 11 and D flat 7 sharp 11. Okay. Day 2 will be D7 sharp 11 and E flat 7 sharp 11. Day 3 will be E7 with the sharp 11 and the F7 sharp 11. Day 4 will be F sharp 7 with a sharp 11 and the G7 with a sharp 11. Then we'll have A flat 7 sharp 11 and A7 sharp 11, that's day 5. And day 6 is your B flat 7 sharp 11 and your B7 sharp 11. All right, week number 27, you're gonna practice dominant flat 13 chords, and just like our other chords, when you're on a 5 chord like a G7, you can color it with a really cool note like that, really hip. Okay, that is the sound of your dominant flat 13 chord. So how do you play this chord? Well, if you play a C7, you're going to add the A flat, which we call the flat 13. Remember, the 13 is the A, you make that flat, okay? Very cool, very hip sounding chord. Usually with this chord, pianists will omit the 5th. They usually will not play this. And if you play it like this, then you can get some of these inversions down here. You see this? So you could play it like this. Okay? But again, that's if you are omitting the 5th. Okay? So how do you practice this? Day 1, this is going to be a C7 flat 13 and a D flat 7 flat 13. Okay? Day 2 will be a D7 flat 13 and an E flat 7 flat 13. Day 3 will be an E7 flat 13 and an F7 flat 13. Day 4 will be an an F sharp 7 flat 13, and a G7 flat 13. Day 5 will be an A flat 7 flat 13, and an A7 flat 13. And finally, day 6 will be a B flat 7 flat 13 and a B7 flat 13. All right, welcome to week 28. And this week, you're going to start combining your chord alterations. And this is where it starts to really sound good. If I'm on a 5 chord, I'm going to a C chord, and I want to use more than one chord alteration. Maybe I want this sound. Okay, this is the sound of multiple chord alterations. Jazz musicians use these all the time, and it's really important to learn the most common combinations of these chord alterations. So for this lesson here, you're going to learn the flat 13 sharp 9 combination, which has this sound. Okay, it's really beautiful. That's the sound. So what is a dominant flat 13 sharp 9? Well, you take your dominant chord, you add your flat 13, and you add your sharp 9 to it. You've already learned these, and now you're just mixing them together. It sounds super cool. Once again, in practice, jazz musicians will omit the 5th to get kind of this sound. And you could practice inversions. You could play it like this, and then you could bring it up. Again, most musicians won't use this particular inversion. They will use this one. Okay, these are called A and B voicings. But I think it's more important to get your bass chord like this so you know the notes. Okay, so how do you practice this? Day 1 is your C and your D flat. Okay. Day 2 is your D and your E flat. Day 3 is your E and your F. And by the way, these are big chords. F7 flat 13 sharp 9. Okay. Then on day 4, it is F sharp and G. And then day 5 is A flat and A. And day 6 is B flat and B. All right, welcome to week number 29. And this week you're going to learn another very cool alter dominant chord called a dominant sharp 11 flat 9. And this is, once again, a very hip way of playing a dominant chord. If I'm going G7 to C, I could play it like this. Okay, it's a very hip sound, and it's beautiful. It's a great way to color your chords. So that's the sound. So how do you play this chord? Well, it's a C7. We're going to add the sharp 11, F sharp, and the flat 9, that D flat, okay? And by the way, an easy way to remember this, it's like a G flat chord over a C chord, right? G flat major over C. Okay, and it's a very hip sound to it, all right? In terms of playing this in inversions, I do not recommend that you do this because there are a lot of notes here, and I think they're adequately covered in both hands, okay? So these are the notes in terms of practicing it. Day 1 will be C7 and D flat 7. Day 2 will be D7 and E flat 7. Day 3 will be E7 and F7. Day 4 will be F sharp 7 and G7. Day 5 will be A flat 7 and A7. And day 6 will be B flat 7 and B7. And I want to remind you, I'm not saying all the chord alterations, but this is a B7 sharp 11 flat 9, okay? It's, again, a very hip way of playing these dominant chords. All right, here we are in week number 30, and this week you're going to learn your last alter dominant chord. This is one of my all-time favorite combinations called the dominant 13 flat 9. It has a beautiful sound. Give it a listen. Okay, I love this sound. It's used a lot in intros of tunes, and it's that sound. Really, really beautiful, and especially works well on ballads. So what is a dominant 13 flat 9? Well, basically, I'm going to take my C7 chord that I taught you earlier, and I'm going to put a 13 on it. That's the A that I taught you, but I'm going to mix that with A flat 9, the D flat. And you can think of this like an A major triad over a C. It has a very beautiful sound to it, okay? Once again, you could try practicing this in some different inversions, but it does become a lot with all of the notes. You could sort of think of it like an A7, but again, I recommend that you just learn the basic notes like this and practice it in all of your keys. Okay, so day 1, you're going to do C13 flat 9 and the D flat 13 flat 9. Okay, day 2 will be D13 flat 9 and E flat 13 flat 9. Day 3 will be E 13 flat 9 and F 13 flat 9. I know it sounds kind of weird, but these are the chords. Day 4 will be F sharp 13 flat 9 and G 13 flat 9. Day 5 will be A flat 13 flat 9 and A 13 flat 9. And day 6 will be B flat 13 flat 9 and B 13 flat 9. All right, welcome to week 31, and this is an exciting week because basically what we're going to do from here forward is we're going to cover voicings. And voicings are basically how you play the chords that you already learned in an interesting way. And if you recall earlier, when you learned certain chords, we're stacking lots of notes. It doesn't sound very interesting. However, when you put the notes together in a certain way like this, these are called voicings, and it's basically the way that the notes get arranged. So this week, we're going to start with our first rootless voicing. A rootless voicing is a chord without a root, and it is a common way of playing chords in the right hand. In this case, I'm playing a root in my left hand, but my right hand chord does not have a root, okay? So we're going to go a little bit faster because you already know these chords. I'm just going to show you a cool way of playing them. Okay, first chord here, this is our major 9 chord. Recall earlier you learned the C major 9. Well, in jazz, a very cool way to play this chord is to put the 7th on the bottom, the 9th, the 3rd, and the 5th. There's no root, there's no C in it, okay? And this is called a B voicing because it has the 7th on the bottom, okay? So you're just going to practice your major 9 rootless voicing chords. This is really useful for accompaniment if you're accompanying a singer or an instrumentalist. So day 1, we're going to play C major 9 and D flat major 9. Day 2 is D major 9 and E flat major 9. Day 3 is E major 9 and F major 9. Day 4 is G flat major 9 and G major 9. Day 5 is A flat major 9 and A major 9. And finally, day 6 is B flat major 9 and B major 9, okay? Now with these, you can play inversions. I can go from here and play it like this. That's beautiful, okay? But in jazz, there are 2 voicings that we tend to use for rootless voicings. We tend to use what's called that B voicing with the 7th on the bottom and the A voicing with the 3rd on the bottom. So if you're going to practice inversions, I recommend your A voicing and your B voicing. Your A voicing and your B voicing. A, B. All right, welcome to week number 32. This week you're going to learn your rootless minor 9 chords. And just like before, you already know this chord. It's a minor 9, except we're going to play it like that. Way cooler, way hipper to play your chords, your minor 9 chords like this. So how do you play this chord? You take your C minor 9 and you put the 7th on the bottom and you voice it like this. 7, 9, 3, and 5, okay? Very beautiful chord, okay? And this is called a B voicing because it has the 7th on the bottom, okay? And once again, you could put the 3rd on the bottom and practice your A voicing and your B voicing if you want to do inversions of these chords, okay? So how do you practice these chords? Well, day number 1 is going to be C minor 9 and C sharp minor 9. Day 2 will be D minor 9, E flat minor 9. Day 3 will be E minor 9 and F minor 9. Day 4 will be F sharp minor 9 and G minor 9. Day 5 will be G sharp minor 9 and A minor 9. And finally, on day 6, we'll have B flat minor 9 and B minor 9. All right, welcome to week number 33. And this week, we're going to talk about rootless major 6/9 chords. Once again, these are chords that you know, and it's just a beautiful way of playing it using rootless voicings. Here's the sound of major 6/9 chords. Right, you hear that? It's a beautiful way to color your major chords. So you already know this chord. Remember, a C major 6/9 is this. And we're going to talk about voicings. How do you voice the chord as a rootless voicing? Well, you're going to put the 6 on the bottom, the 9, the 3, and the 5. This is called a B voicing because it has the 6th on the bottom. Likewise, you could put the A voicing with the 3rd on the bottom. Okay, C 6/9, very common chord. How do you practice this? Day 1 will be C 6/9, D flat 6/9. Day 2 will be D 6/9 and E flat 6, 9. Day 3 will be E 6, 9 and F 6, 9. Day 4 will be G flat 6, 9 and G 6, 9. Day 5 will be A flat 6, 9 and A 6, 9. And day 6 will be B flat 6, 9 and B 6, 9. All right, in week number 34, we're going to talk about rootless minor 6, 9 chords. Once again, if you're on a minor chord like a C minor and you're accompanying, you want to play a really cool chord, you can play chords like this. Okay, notice there's no root in this chord. This is a C minor 6, 9, and I'm playing a very particular voicing. It's a rootless voicing. Okay, so how do you play these chords? Well, you already know what a C minor 6, 9 is. It's that. But we're going to put the 6 on the bottom, and we have what's called a B voicing, okay? So it should look very familiar to you. If you put the 3rd on the bottom, you have an A voicing, okay? How do you practice these? Same thing. We're going to go C minor 6, 9. We're going to go D flat minor 6, 9. That's day 1. Day 2 will be D minor 6, 9 and E flat minor 6, 9. Day 3 will be E minor 6, 9 and F minor 6, 9. Day 4 will be F sharp minor 6, 9 and G minor 6, 9. And day 5 will be A flat minor 6, 9 and A minor 6, 9. You're doing great. And finally, day 6 will be B flat minor 6, 9 and B minor 6, 9. All right, we're in week number 35, and in this week, you're going to learn how to play rootless dominant chords. And if you're playing a blues and you're accompanying, you want to play these cool, crunchy chords, this is the sound of rootless dominant 13 chords. And again, you already know these chords. A C13 has all of these notes in it, okay? We usually put the D in as the 9th of the chord, and then the A is the 13. Well, how do you play it? How do you make it sound good? Well, it's very common for jazz musicians to put the 3rd in the bass and go 3, 13, 7, and 9. There's no root, so it's a rootless voicing chord, and it is an A voicing because it has a 3rd on the bottom. You could also put the 7th on the bottom, making it a B voicing, okay? So that's how you practice it. Day 1, I recommend that you practice C13 and D flat 13. Then on day 2 will be D13 and E flat 13. By the way, you can drop the bass here. It might sound a little better, okay? Day 3 will be E13 and F13. Day 4 will be G flat 13 and G13. Day 5 is A flat 13 and A13. And finally, day 6 is B flat 13 and B13. All right, we're in week number 36, and this is getting exciting because now we're going to take those dominant chords that you just played, like this, and we're going to alter them with rootless voicings. Okay, and this is how a jazz musician would actually play these chords. They don't just play these, altered dominant chords like this that I taught you earlier, because earlier I was teaching you the notes. This is all about voicing. How do you voice the chord to play it in a cool way? Well, if I'm playing these crunchy chords, and I'm in the key of C, and I'm on a 5 chord, the G, right? That's a rootless voicing. What if I want it to sound altered? Well, I might play it like that, okay? And that is very cool. I'm voicing my G7 chord as an altered rootless voicing chord, okay? This altered rootless voicing is called a dominant flat 13 sharp 9, okay? And it has a very hip sound. That's the sound, okay? And you should know this sound already because we talked about it earlier, okay? The way you play this chord is you play a C7 and you put a flat 13 and a sharp 9 on it. It's kind of like an A flat major over a C7 chord. You learned this earlier. Now what we're going to do is we're going to voice it, okay? And what we're going to do is we'll put the 3rd on the bottom, the flat 13, the 7, and the sharp 9. You get a very crunchy C7 flat 13 sharp 9 chord. Okay, this is an A voicing, this is a B voicing. If you want to break it up and do what previously was inversions, this would be like an inversion on these chords, okay? How do you practice it? Let's go day 1, that's C7 with the altered notes and D flat 7 with the altered notes. Okay, day 2 is D7 with the altered notes and E flat 7 with altered notes. Okay, day 3 will be E7 and F. I know these sound kind of weird, but this is how the pros play them. Okay, then day 4 will be F sharp 7 and G7. Day 5 will be A flat and A, and finally day 6 is B flat Our final altered rootless voicing is our dominant flat 13, flat 9. Very similar to what you just learned. That's what you just learned. The flat 9 is that slightly different sound, very common chord that jazz musicians will use when they're accompanying and they want to alter their chords, okay? So that's the sound of a dominant flat 13, flat 9 chord, right? Kind of a sad sound, okay? How do you play this chord? It's a C7, and we're gonna put the flat 13 and the flat 9. You see, it's kind of like a C sharp minor over a C7 chord, okay? But we're gonna voice it in a nice way. We're gonna put the third on the bottom, and then we're gonna come up flat 13, 7, flat 9. Let's put the root down low. I like that sound a little better. And we start practicing. Day 1, we're gonna go C7, D flat 7, okay? Let's go day 2, right? This is gonna be a D7 to an E flat 7. Again, we're adding all these altered notes, okay? Day 3 will be the E7 to the F7. Again, this has the flat 13, flat 9 on it. Then the G flat to the G, that's day 4. Day 5 is the A flat 7 to the A7, okay? And then lastly, day 6 is the B flat 7 to the B7. Again, we're adding flat 13, flat 9 to all of these chords. Now, if you want to go even deeper on rootless voicing chords, you really want to understand them and have some great exercises to master them, check out our Level 6 Foundations learning track at pianowithjonny.com. I have put together full-length courses on each of these rootless voicings, and we go deep on them. So we explore major rootless voicings, minor rootless voicings, dominant rootless voicings, everything we're talking about here, but we go slower and we go in much more depth. So we talk about the chords. I show you tricks to help you remember the chord. We go through essential exercises. I show you how to use these chords in chord progressions and how to connect different rootless voicing chords to each other, and we apply them to tunes. And that's really down here in our lead sheet course. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you take all of these rootless voicings courses, major, minor, dominant, diminished, and you learn how to do them on lead sheet. So it is very comprehensive. If you really want to learn rootless voicings, I highly encourage that you go through that learning track. So I'll put a link to that below. All right, welcome to week 38. This is an exciting week because we're going to dive into a new voicing. And in our last few weeks, we talked about rootless voicings, which is a great way to accompany tunes. But what if you wanted to play a beautiful melody? Like what if you wanted to play Autumn Leaves and you wanted to get this sound? These are called block chords or locked hands voicings. It's a really important voicing to know if you want to play beautiful chords like this, get this kind of warm, crunchy sound, okay? Now this technique is usually used to play melodies. It's not really used for accompaniment. So if you have a melody, let's say I have a C melody, and that melody's moving, it's basically a way to harmonize the melody with 3 internal notes. Block chords. Really, really beautiful chords. So it's a melodic harmonization technique, and it gets you kind of a big band sound. Okay, so it's a voicing. We're taking chords you already know, and we're playing them in a certain way to get a certain sound. Okay, so for block chords, the melody's on the outside. You put 3 notes in the middle all the time. It doesn't matter what the melody is. That's the melody. Put 3 notes in the middle. If that's the melody, you put 3 notes in the middle. Okay, that's kind of the basic idea. So we're going to talk about major block chords. How do you play major block chords? Very simple. You take a 6 chord like this, a C6. We're going to make C the melody, and we're going to put 3 chord tones in the middle. That is a block chord on the C melody. Okay, and you can do this for each note of the scale, but we're not going to go into that much depth because that's going to be a lot for you. We're just going to pick one note of the scale and voice it as a block chord. Okay, so we're taking the C and we're voicing it like this. That's it. That's how simple it is. Then we're going to practice this in all of the keys. So how do you play a block chord on D flat 6? Bring it up a half step. it's a D flat 6, that's your melody. Okay, that's day 1. Day 2, D, that's a D6 and an E flat 6. Okay, it's pretty simple. Then day 3 will be E6 and an F6. Day 4 will be F sharp 6 and G6. Then day 5 will be A flat 6 and A6. Day 6 is B flat 6 and B6. Okay, once again, this is not for accompaniment. This is a way to harmonize your melodies. Okay, really beautiful. All right, welcome to week number 39, and this week you're going to learn about minor block chords. And if you're playing a tune, it's a minor tune, you got a minor chord, and you want to get this sound, you use minor block chords. And it's the same as last week. Basically, your melody stays on the outside, and you're going to harmonize that with 3 internal notes. Okay? Now, we're not going to go over every single melody. I just want to get you the main voicing so you can start practicing this particular voicing. So how do you voice this chord? Well, we have our C melody. We're going to put 3 notes in the middle, E flat, G, B flat. Okay, this is a C minor 7. I'm playing all the notes from the chord in the middle. Melody note is on the outside. Okay, very simple. How do you practice this? Day 1, C minor 7, 2, D flat minor 7. Really simple. Okay. Day 2 is D minor 7, 2, E flat minor 7. Day 3 is E minor 7 to F minor 7. Day 4 is F sharp minor 7 to G minor 7. Day 5 is G sharp minor 7 to A minor 7. And day 6 is B flat minor 7 to B minor 7. All right, welcome to week number 40, and this week you're going to learn how to play blocked chords on dominant chords. And this is really useful if you're on a chord like a G7 and you have a melody. How do you harmonize it as a blocked chord? Right? That's how you would do it. It's a really fun way to harmonize, especially on a blues. If you got a blues going like that, you can do blocked chords. Okay, very, very hip. So how do you play these chords? Well, you've got the melody, C. You're going to put 3 notes from the chord on the inside. In this case, it's a C7, and that is the block chord, right? Melody, internal notes. Once again, I'm not going to teach you all the notes from the scale, because that would be way too much for this. I more want to teach you the general voicing so you can get the sound and the feeling of blocked chords in your fingers, okay? So, C7's like this. This is day 1, D flat. It's all on day 1, okay? Then, day 2, D7 and E flat 7, okay? Day 3 is E7 and F7. Day 4 is F sharp 7 and G7. Day 5 is A flat 7 and A7. Day 6 is B flat 7 and B7. Welcome to week number 41. This week you're going to learn about blocked diminished chords. And what if you had a melody on Embraceable You, and you have a diminished chord like that, and you want to play a blocked chord? How would you do that? Well, you'd play it like this. Okay, so you can play these block chords on diminished chords. How do you do this? Well, let's say you have a C diminished, like that. Well, you've got the melody. We're going to use C as the melody. You put the 3 notes from the chord in the middle. That's it. That's how you play a diminished block chord. Now, you can use this on a scale, but again, we're not going to get into every note of every scale because it would be way too much. But again, I want you to get that feel of the diminished block chord. Okay, so day 1 will be C diminished and C sharp diminished. Day 2 will be D diminished and E flat diminished. Day 3 will be E diminished and F diminished. Day 4 will be F sharp diminished and G diminished. Day 5 will be G sharp diminished and A diminished. And finally, day 6 will be B flat diminished and B diminished. All right, welcome to week number 42. This week you're going to learn your final block chord, and for this one, we're going to play our half diminished block chord. And what if you were playing a tune like Beautiful Love? You have this half diminished chord. How do you play this as a block chord? Well, you play it like this. Okay, it is a very hip sound, one of the most beautiful chords, in the book, okay? So how do you play this chord? Well, we've got C melody. The chord is a half diminished chord, so there's a half diminished chord, and then you put the chord tones in the middle. That's it for your block chords. Now you can do this on the scale, but we're not going to go into that much detail because, again, I just want to teach you the basic voicing, okay? So day 1, C, half diminished 7, C sharp, half diminished 7. Day 2 is D half diminished 7 and D sharp half diminished 7. Day 3 is E half diminished 7 and F. Day 4 is F sharp and G. You're doing a great job. Day 5 is G sharp and A, both half diminished 7. And finally, day 6 is A sharp and B. Now, if you want to go deep on your block chords and you want to really understand them, I recommend that you check out our Level 7 Foundations learning track over at pianowithjohnny.com. In this learning track, we go deep on block chords, and I teach you pretty much everything you need to know about these chords. And we're going to go deep on each type: major 7 block chords, minor 7 block chords, dominant 7 block chords. I'm going to teach you little melodies for each one. So when we do major block chords, you're going to basically focus on progressions that just use major block chords. I'm going to teach you how to connect these chords, really important exercises to master these chords. We're going to work through multiple chord progressions, work on connecting all the various types of chords, and then finally we're going to apply it to lead sheets. And this is the most important thing. If you want to play real world tunes with block chords, you need to learn how to apply them. So we apply them to the top 8 chord progressions that you'll see in lead sheets. So I'll put a link to this learning track below. All right, welcome to week number 43, and this week we're going to get into a new voicing called the drop 2 voicing. And this is a beautiful sound. I want to show you what it sounds like on Somewhere Over the Rainbow. This is one of my all-time favorite voicings, and it's very unique because what I'm doing is I'm taking the block chords that I just taught you and I'm dropping the second note from the top, 1, 2, and I'm putting that on the bottom like this. And this is what drop 2 means. You're literally dropping the second voice from the top to the bottom, and it gives you a really beautiful sound. Oftentimes you get a 10th interval. It's just a lovely sound, okay? So how do you play your drop 2 voicing? Well, this week we're going to focus on our major drop 2s, okay? And it's very simple. Here's what you do. You take your melody, it's a C, there's the block chord for it, and we're going to drop the second voice from the top down to the bottom, and that is the drop 2 voicing on the C, okay? Now, you can harmonize the whole scale using drop 2s, but again, it's a little too much for this video. If you want to go deeply into that, you can learn that over at pianowithjohnny.com, okay? So that's the voicing on the C. How do you practice this? Well, day 1, it'll be C and D flat. Great, this is a D flat, major 6, drop 2. Day 2 will be D 6 and E flat 6, okay? What about day 3? E6 and F6. Day 4, F sharp 6 and G6. Day 5 is A flat 6 and A6. And day 6 is B flat 6 and B6. All right, welcome to week 44. This week you're going to learn about drop 2 minor 7th chords. And just like major 7 chords, right, you can harmonize any minor melody with drop 2s. For example, if I wanted to harmonize My Funny Valentine in drop 2s, I could do that. Right? Any minor melody can be harmonized this way. So how do you play this? Well, we take our C minor 7 block chord that I taught you earlier, and we drop the second note here down the bottom. And that becomes our drop 2. Okay? Very, very simple. Doesn't matter what the chord is. If I'm playing this as a block chord, I drop this note down to the bottom. Okay? But we're going to do this voicing to start. Okay? So this is our C minor 7 drop 2. And then you're going to practice it on day 1, going up to the C sharp minor 7, drop 2. Okay? Day 2 will be D minor 7, drop 2, and then E flat minor 7, drop 2. Day 3 is E minor 7, drop 2, and F minor 7, drop 2. Day 4 is F sharp minor 7, drop 2, and G minor 7, drop 2. Day 5 is G sharp minor 7, drop 2, and A minor 7, drop 2. And finally, day 6 is B flat minor 7, drop 2 to B minor 7, drop 2. All right, welcome to week number 45. This week you're going to learn about dominant 7 drop 2s. And let's say you're playing a blues and you want to play your melody in drop 2s. And let's say your melody went like that. You can harmonize it in drop 2s. So how do you play this? You take your melody, 3 internal notes, it's a C7, and we drop that second to the top note down to the bottom, and that is a C7 drop 2. It's that simple, okay? Then you can do it on D flat. There it is. Okay, that's day 1. Day 2, D7 drop 2 to E flat 7 drop 2. Day 3, E7 drop 2 to F drop 2. It's that simple, okay? Day 4, F sharp 7 to G7. Beautiful. Day 5, A flat 7 to A7. And finally, day 6, B flat 7 to B7. All right, welcome to week number 46. We're going to continue our drop 2 chords. And what if you have a diminished chord? What if you're playing I'll Be Home for Christmas? You have this E flat diminished, and I want to play this as a drop 2. Can I do that? Absolutely. So in this case, I would go like that. Okay, I just played that diminished chord, right, as a drop 2, okay? So how do you do this? Well, let's say your melody is a C and the chord is a C diminished. So you put the chord tones in the middle, you drop the second note from the top down to the bottom, and that's the drop 2 voicing for a C melody on a C diminished 7th chord, okay? It's that simple, okay? How do you practice it? Day 1, like that. So C diminished up to C sharp diminished. Day 2 is D diminished up to D sharp diminished. Day 3 is E diminished up to F diminished. Day 4 is F sharp diminished up to G diminished. Day 5 is G sharp diminished up to A diminished. And day 6 is A sharp diminished up to B diminished. All right, welcome to week number 47. This is the last week on drop 2 chords. This week we're going to cover our half diminished chords. And what if you're playing a tune like Beautiful Love and you want to play your drop 2s on this chord? You can do that, okay? It would go like this. Okay, really beautiful, okay? So how do you play these chords? Well, same as before. Let's say the melody is a C. You play your 3 chord tones in the middle. That is a half diminished C chord. And you drop the second voice from the top down to the bottom. Beautiful, okay? Now you can do this on the full scale, but that's a little beyond the scope of this video. If you want to learn that, you can in our full-length course, okay? But for practice, get that first voicing, and day 1, start there, and then go to C sharp, half diminished 7, drop 2 voicing. Okay, day 2, we go to D, and then D sharp, half diminished 7, drop 2 voicing. Day 3, it's E to F, you with me? Then day 4 is F sharp to G, again half diminished. Day 5 is G sharp to A. And day 6 is A sharp to B. Now once again, if you want to go deeper on drop 2 voicings and really understand them, check out our level 8 foundations learning track over at pianowithjonny.com. Just like our other foundations learning tracks, we go deep on this topic. We explore each chord, major drop 2, minor drop 2, dominant drop 2, and I show you how to play these voicings over any melody note. So if you have a melody over these chords, you'll know exactly how to play the voicing. I show you essential exercises, how to play these over different chord progressions. We talk about the ideal fingering, also how to do little slide-ins to your notes. And then I show you how to apply drop 2 voicings to a lead sheet. And this, once again, is the best part of this learning track because it's application. You will understand how to do this on your favorite tunes. So I'll put a link to this learning track below. All right, welcome to week number 48. And this is very exciting because in this week, you're going to learn the coolest, most advanced voicing among them all. These are called Quartal voicings. Give it a listen. Okay, these sound super jazzy, super cool, and all of the pros use this voicing. So what is a quartal voicing? Well, a quartal voicing is a chord voicing that is primarily built in fourths or quarters. So you want to take your chord and you want to get as many fourth intervals as possible, okay? But there's a very specific way to play these chords, so that's what I'm going to show you. Now, these chords are typically used for accompaniment. So if someone is singing the melody or playing the melody, you would typically play these chords as an accompaniment. However, you could use them on the melody. For example, if you were playing Let's Fall in Love, you could use them on this tune. So in this lesson, you're going to learn quartal major voicings. Okay, this is how to play a major chord like a C major in quartals. Okay, so for this voicing, we're going to start with the third, the E. We're going to play the sixth, the ninth, the fifth, and the root. And this is a beautiful way of playing a major chord if you want to accompany, is to play this voicing. Okay, it is a 6-9 chord, a C6-9, which you already learned, but it is spread out primarily in fourth intervals. You see all the fourths? Okay, so that is the voicing you're going to learn. So how do you practice this? Well, on day 1, you're going to go C and D flat. Day 2 is D and E flat. Day 3 is E and F. Day 4 is G flat and G. Day 5 is A flat and A. And day 6 is B flat and B. All right, welcome to week number 49. This week you're going to learn minor quartal chords. And what if you were playing a minor chord progression and you wanted to play as quartals? And let's say the chord progression went like this. A flat 7, G7, C minor 7. Okay, how would you play it in quartals? Well, you could do it like this. Okay, very, very cool. Very, very hip, okay? So how do you do this? Well, let's say you have a C minor chord, like a C minor 7. You can voice it like this to get that quartal sound. We're building this off the F, which is the 11, and we play F, B flat, E flat, G, and C. This is the 11, 7, 3, 5, and 1. And that's a very hip way of playing a minor chord in quartals, okay? So that's how you do it. Now you can harmonize the whole scale. But again, that's beyond the scope of this lesson. If you want to learn that, you can learn that over at pianowithjonny.com. Okay, so how do you practice this? Starting on the C chord, and we're going to go up to the D flat minor quartal. Okay, that's day 1. Day 2 is D minor quartal, D minor 11, to E flat minor quartal. Day 3 will be E minor 11 quartal to F minor 11 quartal. Day 4 is G flat minor 11 to G. Day 5 is A flat minor 11 to A minor 11. And finally, day 6 is B flat minor to B. All right, what if you want to accompany on a blues, and the blues goes, and you want to use quartals? No problem. Okay, very cool, very hip sound. So for this, I'm taking my dominant chords like a C7, and I'm building them like this. Okay, primarily fourth intervals. I have my third, my seventh, my ninth, my fifth, and my root. I have a fourth, I have a fourth, I have kind of like an augmented fourth and a third there. But that definitely gets you that quartal sound. Okay, once again, you can harmonize the whole scale. That's beyond the scope of this. You can learn that over at Piano with Jonny, okay? So how do you practice this? C7 or C9. This is day 1. You go to D flat. Day 2, we're going to go to D. It's a D dominant chord. We're playing as a D9 up to E flat. That's day 2. Day 3 is E9. This is an F9. Day 4 is G flat 9 to a G9. Day 5, A flat 9 to A9. And B flat 9 to a B9. Sounds awesome. All right, welcome to week number 51. We're getting close to the end of the year, and this week you're going to learn how to play your diminished chords as quartal chords. And what if you're playing a Christmas tune like I'll Be Home for Christmas, and you get to this diminished chord and you want to play a quartal voicing? Maybe you're accompanying. Well, you might play it like this. Isn't that beautiful? And then you might go this on your 2 chord and this on your 5 chord, okay? So how do you play a quartal voicing on a diminished chord? It's pretty simple, okay? The way I recommend that you do it, start from your 3rd, play that double flat 7, the A, the 3rd, that's the flat 3, the flat 5, and the root, okay? And what you get here are a few augmented 4th intervals. That's an augmented 4th, that's an augmented 4th, that's an augmented 4th, okay? And that's beautiful. That is a C diminished chord voiced in quartals or 4ths. Okay? Again, you can harmonize the whole scale. We won't do that here. We're just going to do the C. How do you practice it? Day 1, C diminished, C sharp diminished. Day 2, D diminished, D sharp diminished. Day 3, E diminished and F diminished. Day 4, F sharp diminished and G diminished. Day 5, G sharp diminished and A diminished. And day 6 is A sharp diminished and B diminished. All right, welcome to the final week. Congratulations, you did it. You made it all the way to the end of the year. And for this lesson, you're going to learn how to play quartal voicings on your half diminished chord. Remember, this is a chord you will see in tunes, and so it's really important to know how to play quartal voicings on it. And so let's say you're playing Beautiful Love. It's a beautiful tune, right? That first chord is an E half diminished chord. How do you play a quartal voicing on this chord? Well, you'd play it like this. Okay, really beautiful. So how do you voice a half diminished chord as a quartal voicing? Well, we're going to use C as our example, and I like to build it like this. Okay, so we've got the 11th, the 7th, the flat 3, the flat 5, and the root. Okay, once again, we're trying to go for maximum 4ths. So we have a perfect 4th, and we have an augmented 4th there. Okay, really beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and practice these. Day 1 will be C half diminished, and this is D flat half diminished. It's a quartal voicing. Day 2 is going to be D half diminished, and then D sharp or E flat half diminished. Day 3 will be E to F half diminished. This will be day 4. This will be F sharp to G. You're doing great. Day 5 is G sharp to A. I know they sound kind of weird, but this is the way the pros do it. And then finally, day 6 is A sharp to B. Now, once again, just like the other voicings, if you want to go deep on quartal voicings, you can learn these in our Level 9 Foundations learning track over at pianowithjonny.com. Once again, we go deep on each of our different types of chords: major quartals, minor quartals, dominant quartals, half diminished, diminished. We go through how to harmonize the scale in quartals. So you can actually learn how to harmonize any melody using quartal voicings on any chord. We teach you essential exercises, how to connect your chords, and then how to apply them on chord progressions and on tunes. And the best course is our lead sheet course, because that's how you'll learn how to apply these quartal voicings to actual tunes. So I'll put a link to that below. Wow, oh wow, you did it. You made it all the way to the end. Congratulations. It is a big deal to have worked through an entire year of chords. There was a lot of material here, and this was truly designed to get you through an entire year, because if you want to master your chords, you need to understand the chords. You need to have the right exercises. You need to be inspired, so you hear the chords in the context of tunes and chord progressions. And so that was the goal here, was to get you excited, get you motivated, but more importantly, to get you on a path. And so you made it. You've learned the 52 most important chords. And by now you should have the confidence to go take your favorite chord progressions and try these chords on them. And when you compare yourself now to where you were a year ago, you should see a major difference in your playing, because you worked through the material, you worked through the exercises, and you got it in your fingers. So congratulations, well done. And if you want to improve other aspects of your playing, like scales and ear training and accompaniment, you can learn all of these skills over at pianowithjonny.com. We have dedicated learning tracks that will help you. They are made for your playing level. We have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Also, you can study styles at Piano with Jonny, like jazz swing, Latin jazz, jazz ballads, funk, rock, R&B, right? There's tons of styles, so you can go deep, you can really take your playing to the next level. So I encourage you to check out all of our resources over at pianowithjonny.com, and I'll see you in the next video.